Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Retirement. Today, my guest is France Lemieux, and I'm really looking forward to this interview. France and I met online after she clicked one of the buttons on my website and requested some information. We started corresponding, and I think I got the better end of the deal in terms of information sharing. And she's turned out to be living one of the lifestyles that I'm trying to showcase in Beyond Retirement. So France is an accountant, and she's been able to combine a flexible work schedule and a 9-to-5 lifestyle through most of her life. She's an experienced traveler. She's semi-retired and spends her winter months traveling the world. Yeah, maybe not this winter. Although traveling is a way of life, she finds a mix of working and traveling to suit her lifestyle, and it seems to be perfect for the time being. So France, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Jackie.
I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be really interesting talking to you. And I'm hoping that we can start with a bit of your history. What led you to the kind of traveling, working lifestyle that you've got?
I think when I first started working, it's interesting when I realized I moved away from my hometown when I was fairly young. And I realized that 2 weeks vacation a year to me, obviously working for the private sector, it wasn't very much. You spend 1 week going to visit your family, and then you're left with 1 week for traveling or doing other things. So that's when I think it just clicked. It's like, do I really want to do this for 40 years? I mean, this is what it is. It's 3 weeks, 2 weeks vacation. That's all you get. And then if you're away from your family, you're spending so much time or some time visiting the family, and then you're left with maybe a week to travel. Well, how much do you see in 1 week when you want to travel the world? And I think I always had this desire to see more than just my own country. So I think that's where it all started. And I guess that's when I figured, well, I got to change something. And what do I need to change? So save up, quit the job, come back, find another job, make arrangements with the employer. In the end, it turned out to be that I just quit the job, saved up, quit the job, and went traveling. And that's, wow. I got the bug. And I've been traveling since. And it's just the 3 weeks. It's not so much the 9-to-5 as the 2 to 3 weeks vacation a year. I can do 9-to-5 for quite a while, but I don't want to do it for 49 or 50 weeks a year.
Right.
That's the big part. I think that for me was the deciding factor, I guess.
So when you started doing that, you had a full-time job. Were you married at that point?
No, I wasn't married. I was in a relationship. I had a full-time job, 9-to-5. I was in Vancouver. My family's based in Quebec. So the 2 weeks vacation, 1 week to fly home, using up most of the budget for traveling, and then you're left with the 1 week. So we both realized that it was, well, if it's something we want to do, we got to do it now. We don't have kids, let's do it. So that's how it started. We started saved up for about a year and a half, figured we had enough money for a year to travel, and we just quit the job and left, sold everything, left the apartment, and went traveling. We first thought we were going to travel for a year. It ended up being almost 2.5 years. So we didn't come home for 2.5 years. We visited about 35 countries, had a wonderful time, and we just got hooked. We got hooked, and it became, the plan was always, okay, how can we travel? Where can we travel? How quick can we save money? It was always related to travel. We came back, and then the kids came. I've got 2 girls. And then we moved for a while. We moved to the Yukon. We stayed there for a few years and saved up again, and again quit the jobs left with 2 kids in a row, and they were 2 and 3 at the time, backpacking it. We did South America for the first year, and the second year was Central America. And after that, that's when we settled in Ottawa. And I've been in Ottawa for about 20 years now. So, but the has always been there.
So when you're deciding where you want to travel to, when you're saying, okay, I'm back at home, I got to save up, how do you decide where you're going to go?
Very good question. I enjoy Spanish. I've always enjoyed Spanish. So I tend to visit Spanish countries a lot. So that's my starting point. But also I try to visit new countries every time if I can, because I just want to add on to the number of countries I visit. Sometimes just by doing research on the internet, something you read in a magazine, you go, oh, that looks cool. Maybe I should do this. And you just look up on it. So it's varied. It's varied. You talk to people. People say, "Oh, you gotta see this country. You gotta do this." So you just look it up and say, "Oh, yeah, that works. Okay, so maybe this is what we're gonna do." So there's not very a specific way of looking at it. It's just whatever comes, I look at it and then decide.
So when you're doing your research, obviously you're looking for things like how long you can stay in a country or whether you need a visa, what sort of vaccinations you might need, that sort of thing. Is it easier just to kind of vaccinate and get visas for everything and just, hope you're going to a place that that you're ready for, or do you plan it completely?
I plan quite a bit. The travel within the country, not so much. I usually point out the main items I want to visit. It's the preparation for the traveling, yes, visas, vaccines, flights, best time to go, the climate, everything I look up and I kind of summarize it for each country I want to visit. And then I do all the stuff that I need to do. I just apply for those visas. I buy my tickets, look at the requirements. Because usually when I go away, I do more than one country at the time. So it does require some planning. Yeah. When I'm in the country, what I like to do is I do want to keep an open calendar in the sense that, yes, I've highlighted these cities or areas that I want to visit, but I do keep a lot of flexibilities. I don't book in advance. I don't do hotel bookings at all. I just travel. I don't buy tickets in advance. I always do it in the country. Because the way I see it is if you need to change your plans, well, it's easy because you've got nothing booked. So it gives you that extra freedom that I like to have when traveling. You meet people, they say, you gotta go to this city. Oh, okay, well, I didn't plan for it, but I'll do it. So, you just change your plans and you go, you visit, and then you continue. So it's that freedom for me within the travel is I think the biggest advantage.
Do you think that by doing it that way, you're saving money by doing your hotels or wherever you stay after you get there, looking at things the way that the locals do, kind of? You're going to get better rates than you would if you were pre-planning?
Maybe, I'm not too sure. What I find though, Jackie, is that very often there are, depending on the country, there are a lot of small hostels or guest houses that are not on the web. So if you do your standard booking.com, hotel.com, whatever, you might not find them. And very often these people are the greatest place where you can stay, because they're usually very small, usually family oriented. They only have a few rooms, and that's where you get to meet the locals. You're really into the locals. They tell you what to do and things like that. You just sit, you chat. And those to me are, I think, what makes the experience so
Oh,
much
yeah,
more interesting. Yeah. I
exactly. I
remember
mean,
one time we stayed in this place. The lady had like 2 rooms, spent the night on her balcony, just chatting away, and it was just amazing. It's just great because that's how you get to see how people live, what their
exactly.
life is like.
You don't, yeah, you don't get that on the resorts.
Yeah.
People can say, oh, I've traveled the world, but they haven't really. They've lived
No.
with North Americans
Yeah.
in some resort someplace.
Exactly. And usually what I do is I just knock on doors. I kind of highlight the hotels in the area. I use, an app and kind of highlight the area where most hotels are or guest houses. And then I just shop around until I
Interesting.
find something. But it never takes a long time. I mean, I think maybe the longest I've spent looking for a room might have been less than an hour, 45 minutes maybe. Usually you find something, it's quite easy. So,
So I know things are a little different for you now. You used to travel with your partner, with your kids,
uh-huh.
but I understand you're traveling single now.
I
Does
am.
that worry you at all, traveling as a single woman?
Uh, I enjoy traveling with someone else just because you can chat about things that you see. Traveling alone is very different. You tend to be a bit more careful. You do have to watch a little bit more how you do your things. It's if you stay in a hostel, you've got your backpack. There's no one watching your backpack while you're having a shower, or
Right.
there are things that you need to kind of adjust to. But and I'm not sure I would do. There are countries I don't think I would do alone, just because I wouldn't feel safe enough. Uh, so usually what I've been doing is I usually have a friend that would come and spend maybe a month and then go, and then I'm on my own for a few weeks, and then another friend comes. So it hasn't been too bad, but I do have to get more familiar with traveling alone. So it's my goal. I'm just working on it.
Yeah. Or you have to find other people who are traveling alone that want to see the same places. I mean, I've seen
Yeah.
groups on Facebook for women who are traveling single,
Uh-huh.
and they're always looking for someone to go with. Yeah. But
Yeah.
then you have to coordinate things and you have to
Right.
decide together
Right.
what you're doing. There's
Right. Right.
pros and
And
cons.
it's not easy traveling with well,
Someone you
you
don't
have
know.
to adjust. When you're traveling with someone, you have to adjust because you're on
Yeah,
vacation. So it has to be a good experience for both people,
exactly.
so you do have to adjust. So if you're on your own, well, you do whatever you want to. So get an extra freedom by being by yourself. Just
Yeah,
you have to be more, you have to go towards other people more and try to connect with travelers. So it's a bit different that way.
right.
You do see a lot of young women traveling alone. They don't mind at all. Older
Interesting.
women, I haven't seen that many.
Yeah.
So a few, but in limited numbers, for
So
sure.
what sort of problems have you come across in your traveling? Do you have any problems, or just little things that don't really bother you?
I think I usually travel with the idea that nothing's going to work the way we plan to. There are going to be bumps on the road. Uh, so when they do happen, it's like, okay, let's make the best of it. Um, there hasn't been big issues, sometimes you might, because I don't book ahead of time, then sometimes maybe I can't book a flight for a couple of days, or I can't book a train for a few days, or things like that. But no, there hasn't been. I do travel. I am quite careful when I travel. I never really go out at night. I stay in my room. I avoid um, going out alone. Um, I also, I stay in an area where it's safe. Um, I I don't know. I try to be careful as much as I can. You know, I carry a money belt. It's always in my pants. I do register with travel.gc.ca just so I get notice about the country, things like that. So I try to travel smart. It's been good so far. I've had maybe a couple of incidents where someone tried to rob me, but they didn't manage to do it. But I think everybody has that kind of experience when they're traveling. I mean,
Yeah.
somehow it's going to happen. So, you know, and I don't carry anything that's fancy. I don't have jewelry. I carry just a backpack. I wear just cheap clothes. So I'm not an attractive target
Right.
because I don't show anything. I have a small
Yeah.
camera, which is my phone. It's always hidden. I keep it in my bra. You know, I don't try to show that I'm a big rich traveler, so I don't
Right.
attract people. So I think that helps too.
You talk about money, about carrying the money belt, that sort of thing. Do you use a credit card, or do you usually use cash when you're there, when you're
Almost always
wherever?
cash.
Yeah.
Always almost cash. Um, Credit cards, very often you have to pay fees,
Yeah.
extra fees. Um, for me, when I'm in the country, I usually get a bunch of money out and then I use cash.
Right.
It works best. Most people don't take credit cards in small guest houses,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't be able to pay. When you do, I buy a lot of food at markets because I enjoy visiting markets. So you wouldn't be able to pay um, with credit cards. At times, sometimes for buses and things, depending on the country, then I would pay with the credit card. But otherwise, it's pretty much cash, pretty much
Hmm.
cash. So I carry a few $100s every time. So I'm vulnerable to a limit.
Yeah.
So
But it makes you think about it. It makes you plan a little bit as you go through your days.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I mean, with the money belt, and I figure, well, if I get my stuff stolen, I mean, they go with $500, and that's the risk I have to live with, right?
Yeah.
So, but no, there hasn't been any incident. I do keep the money belt inside my pants, and I also have like a money belt outside of my pants, just like one of those. I'm not sure what you call them, like, but it's just an outside one. I call it my decoy because that's where I put just like the day's money. So if they
Right.
do want to take something, they're gonna
Grab
aim
that.
for that pocket, and all they have is maybe a pen and some paper or Kleenex and a few dollars. So
Right. And
they
just a
wouldn't get
fanny
away.
pack kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh,
that's
that's
what
a
I
good
have.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come home, so you go away, you travel for a few months at a time, and you come back home, do you have trouble finding work again, or do you have jobs lined up and customers lined up before you go away?
Um, so far, keep my finger crossed. I always have work when I come back. I usually at Christmas time, I call it I do a mail out. I send Christmas cards online and I email a bunch of people, a lot of colleagues, and I tell them about my travels and my date when I come back. So they know, oh, she's traveling, but she's back in March. So maybe I can ask her for work in March because I do
Right.
a lot of project management. I'm in finance and I do a lot of project management. So there's always projects to do. So I figure by sending that email, it just sort of, oh yeah, right, France is available. Oh, so it's been good so
That's,
far. So I
yep,
can't
that's
complain.
good
It's been
planning.
very good. Yeah. Yeah, it's been very good.
So what do you think are the best points about the kind of lifestyle that you've got?
Well, the one being in Canada, I get to go away and not have to go through the long winter that we have. That's a big highlight for me. I like the warm weather. Um, what I do like is that I think if I was full-time retired at the moment, I would I would get bored. Um, I still need my brain to be engaged in some kind of project. So working does the job for me because I'm always learning. Being in project management, you're never working on the same project. It's always something new. So I'm always having to research, think. So I'm always learning. So I find the mix between the two, when I go away, then I can turn off everything, the brain shuts down, and then I'm just traveling and I'm having a great time. But when I come back, I do want to be engaged in doing something. And I think if I was retired full-time in Ottawa for now, um, I mean, COVID aside, it would I'm not sure if I would be capable of finding things to do full time. I'm not there yet. I am planning a lot of things for when I do go with a full retirement. But right now, I do enjoy. I mean, I work 7 hours a day. I still have about 8 hours of free time after work. So there's a lot of free time still. So, and the work is very flexible. So for now, it's meeting my objectives. I mean, money comes in. I have enough money. I get to travel. I come back at work. Save up, travel, come back. So I'm not touching any of my retirement money yet. Uh, so I'm self-sufficient, and I still put some away. So it's good.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good retirement plan that you've got going. You're able to take vacations when you want for the length of time you want. You come back, you got the money there. You're not hurting. You're not, using up retirement savings. That's great.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you thought about, you say you'd get bored if you were completely retired. Have you thought about the laptop lifestyle, the kind of things that so many people are doing these days, location independent work, would let you travel all the time, and then you just pick up your, the few hours a day or a few hours a week that you'd need wherever you happen to be?
I last summer, someone did ask me, "Well, would you work when you're traveling?" And I find that when I'm traveling, I want my mind on traveling. I don't want my mind on work because I think it's always you always have that constant reminder that you need to do this job or this job. And I think it has an impact on the way you travel. And I'm not sure I would want to be carrying a laptop and doing it. Maybe in the future, as you said, if I'm fully retired, maybe it would become an option. But for now, when I travel, I just don't want to think about work. When I'm in it, I'm in it. And when I'm out, I'm out. But that may change with the years. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
I think that's an interesting point, because I'm looking for the kind of job that I can do, not, the kind of work that I can do, that I can be doing from wherever I happen to be without having to worry about anything else. But I get that point. If you're traveling for the sake of traveling, you want to be able to spend your time focused on that, not thinking about, gee, I should be going back to the hotel and doing a little bit of work. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of
it's a matter of balancing it, I guess.
And as you said, if you're being full-time on retirement, maybe you do want to have that. For
Yeah.
me right now, because I get it 5 to 6 months a year, I'm quite happy with it. But if I was fully retired, maybe that's something I would like to explore, in the sense that, well, I got to keep busy, or I got to keep that brain going because I
Yeah.
still need to learn. So that would be an aspect maybe I would change, but at this point, I haven't done a lot of research about it. Might be something I should put on my list of things to explore.
So what would you recommend for someone who's thinking about trying what you're doing? How would they get started?
That's such a good question because it's so different for to it. I think the way
I guess
you
it
need
depends
to
what kind
know,
of job you're doing.
yeah, it depends on the job you're doing. It depends on what your, I guess it depends on what your plans are. What is it that you want? I mean, you got to know, you very often people say, "Oh, I'm going to play golf when I'm 60." Well, yes, maybe, but
Not forever.
not forever. And as well, it's nice to say I'm going to do this in the future, but really, if you are, how are you going to get there? So I'm in project management, so I'm a planner. I plan all the time, and I do look at possibilities. And I'm like, okay, well, if I want to retire at 50, what do I need to do to get there? So if you're 20, 25, 30, I mean, and that's your objective, well, you can't just say I'm going to retire at 50. You somehow have to prepare. I mean, it doesn't have to be very strict what you're doing, but at least you got to work towards that goal. But how are you going to attain that goal is you kind of have to break it down and say, okay, well, I'm going to buy a smaller house so I can save. Here's the way I'm going to save. You got to look at how you're going to attain that objective, I think, and you got to plan for it. Budget is a big issue. I mean, you got to save money somewhere. I mean, unless you've got a very good job and it's easy to save money. But for me, I keep a very tight budget. I know where I spend. I tend to be a very minimalist, so I'm don't consume much. Um, and I save up quite a bit, but that's my way of doing it. So you know, it's it does take some planning. I have to say, you can't just say I'm going to do this and bang, it happens. You got to plan for it. You got to have an idea of where you're going and how you're going to get there. It might not be a straight road, but at least you can always go back to it. Say, okay, well, that's my plan. Where I'm at today versus what I had planned to be is okay, so I need to adjust, and then you readjust and you continue.
I guess it's a matter of deciding what you need versus what you want,
As
so that
well,
you can,
Jackie, as
you can
well.
cut out the things that you don't really, have to have, the things that you just want to do, put them
Exactly.
aside for a little while so that, the needs are taken care of, but the extra money for the wants can go aside to
True.
planning.
And it's interesting that when you start the planning, so when we had first decided to travel, we looked at the budget to the penny. And every day it was, okay, how much did we spend today? And then you look at where your spendings are, and that's where you start cutting down. You go, okay, well, I'm going to the movies 3 times a month. Well, maybe I should rent or just do it online, right? And then you cut down on that part. Oh, well, I've bought this much in clothing. What do you really need that much? Maybe not. So cut down. And as you do that process, you realize that the bank account just keeps going up and up and up because you're cutting down and down and down.
Right.
And then once you see that account going up, like
It's exciting.
it's exciting. Yeah. So it encourages you to do even more. So you're like, okay, target for this month is I want to reach this amount. And it just builds. And then it's exciting. As you said, it's very exciting. So and the first time it took us a year and a half to save. And I have to tell you, following that, because it was so ingrained into us after that we never sort of spent on places that we felt were maybe not necessary, like the wants.
Yep.
We didn't spend on it. We just went for the needs. So, and I think from that day on, it's been a way of life. It's just, oh, well, I can do it, but I can do this and it's free. Or I could do this, but that's expensive. So you choose, right? So you make
Yep.
decisions based on that. So
And after a while, you don't really miss the things that you're not spending the money on.
Well, I'll tell you an example is people go to a restaurant every week, for example. Most people do. They go out
Yeah.
at least once a week, maybe twice a week. Well, I don't go to restaurants anymore, but when I do, it's such an
A
it's
treat.
such a nice outing because it's an activity you don't do on a regular basis. So it becomes special.
Yeah.
So that's when, for me, that's the big difference. If you don't do it very often, then it becomes a special occasion, right? As opposed to just your standard, I'm going to the restaurant 2 times a week or whatever. Uh, so that makes a big difference. And I had a friend of mine who, a couple with 2 kids, same as us. And they said, how come you get to travel every year? We were making just about the same amount of money. We had 2 kids, same age, same school. And then my daughter, she says, Mom, they keep asking me why I get to travel every year. And I said, well, what do we do different than they do? And she goes, well, they go out every Friday night for food. I said, okay, that's $100 a night, 4 people. Oh, and every Sunday they go for ice creams and they have an outing. There's another one, $50. I said, that's 150 every week times 52. That's where your traveling comes into play because we don't do this, right? So we get to travel, but we gave up on the ice cream and we gave up on the restaurant. So it's a matter of choosing where you want to spend your money. That's bottom line.
Did you have, excuse me, did you have trouble with your kids sometimes with wanting the things that their classmates have, their friends have that they didn't get because you were saving?
Yeah, probably some. It wasn't, they started traveling, they were very young. So, and they enjoyed it. They loved when we went to South America, loved it. And we kept taking them on trips. And every time it was always, well, which one would you prefer? Do you want to have your, designer shoes, or you want to have your standard shoes and then go to Costa Rica in the spring? Well, you choose. Oh, I want to go to Costa Rica, Mom. And that was it. So quite often, if you just say, well, it's your choice, but if we don't put that money into our trip, then we won't have the trip. So what would you prefer to do?
Yeah.
So of course, at times, I mean, they thought, oh, gee, but they got the travel bugs. I mean, they're big travelers now. They've been on their
Yeah.
own since they're 18. They enjoy traveling. And when we talk about it, they always say, I'm so glad we're big travelers because we get to see so much. So I think they do appreciate the fact that we did those sacrifices when they were young. Yeah.
So just one last thing before we wind it up. You told me in one of our conversations that you have a retirement wall in your house. Can you talk a little bit about your retirement wall?
I do. This is the whole idea of going maybe on a full-time retirement. So how do I retire and keep myself busy? So what I started doing is I've got a wall that has no pictures on it at home, and I started writing ideas. And basically, I sort of group things into categories. An example would be sports, travel, social, learning, volunteers, things like that, things that I like. And and for each of those categories, I just sort of made a list of things that came to mind that would be interesting to explore. So every so often I just look at my wall and I go, okay, this is looking good, and I add to it or I change. And also what I started doing with that wall is I started doing sort of a list of when I want to do these things. So for example, I want to do the Camino de Santiago. Well, I've been seeing it for years, and now I'm like, okay, well, it's on that wall. What year do you plan to do it? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it this year. So now it's 2021. I mean, if I can, and that's the one thing I would like to do. So it's like sort of a checklist, if you want, of things that I want to do, but more Now it's getting more real as I'm listing, okay, I want to do this. When do I want to do these items? And it's filling up my retirement calendar, I guess. So I see how busy I can be. So it's
That's
kind of
cool.
nice because it's just stuck on the wall, and then you look at it and you go, okay. And then and also when people come over, it makes for a great conversation because this is good, So no.
So you do that. You say you write on the wall. You use Post-its, right? You don't write on your wall. So you can move them around a little bit if you want to.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've got for each item, I've got like a big piece of paper that would say, for example, volunteer, and then I just do Post-its on it, and it's just a list of things I want to do as a volunteer.
Right.
Yeah. So
So I guess you can look at that and pick a country to go to based on what you decide you want to do. If you want to do
exactly.
some volunteering, you can do it in, Guatemala, or you can do it wherever
Exactly.
you want to go. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, it's been good, and now I can even a couple of days ago I was looking at it, and I started now I'm working on my Camino. I'm hoping to go in May, but it's unlikely I will go in May. But when I do go, I've started my planning process right now, and that's what I want to do. And then I've got my list for the next few years. I do have
Everything
a
planned.
good list of things to do. So
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much for being with me today, France. I really enjoyed it. I think this is wonderful. Um, I don't I don't suppose you have a website or anything like that. If someone wanted to get in touch with you and talk to you about your plan or what you're doing and ask you questions, can they do that?
I guess the best way would be through email, because I have my Facebook page and my email, and that's about it. I do not have a website. It's just a lifestyle. I'm not very big on social media, so that would be the best way to reach me.
So they could find you on Facebook. I'll put your email address in the show notes.
Perfect. Yeah.
That would be great.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Well, thank you for having me, Jackie. It was great talking to you.